You know I'm your Bitcoiner for life, or at least I'm trying to be. No, I'm not your Bitcoiner for life. I'm your Bitcoiner until 100,000 Bitcoin. Bitcoin 100,000. I'm out. I'm gone. Anyway, guys, welcome. Welcome to another live session. Welcome to another powwow. Interesting day in the Bitcoin space today, obviously. So come on in, make yourselves comfortable. Grab the beverage of your choice. And I want to make sure everyone understands that no matter who you are, you're welcome. If you are a supporter, if you are a hater, if you are a Bitcoin negator, I actually appreciate your participation just as much as the supporters, the followers, the subscribers, the whatever. All right, guys, come on in. Anyway, I just want to do an overall Q&A. I'm hoping that I can get enough questions to sort of make a session like this interesting. As I mentioned on many live sessions, I don't know why I don't get every single post or question that you pose here, but the ones that I do, I'm certainly open to answering. Hey, Mohammed, what's happening, buddy? Anyway, I'm also curious to find out where you're piping in from. I'm actually piping in from Medellin, Colombia. I live here the vast majority of the year. I actually live on 3 different continents each year. I sort of chase the sun, you know. But I spend time in Europe every single year, about 2 months out of the year. I spend many months here in Colombia. And of course, I'm an American, so I spend months out of the year in the United States as well. And that is my triad. I spend the vast majority of my time between those 3 locations. And that's how I live my life. So where are you piping in from? I'm sort of curious. Will Hindle says, "Hey, Ali, you're great. Love the positivity and your experience." I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I appreciate your appreciation. I don't want anyone to really think that I don't appreciate some of the comments. In fact, guys, you know, I'm sure that the vast majority of you realize that, you know, in the public space, you receive far more negativity or negative comments than you do positive comments, simply because the people who experience positivity don't have, they don't have as high a propensity to comment about their positive experience. And so actually the ratio works out to about 17-1. So if someone wants to be negative or nasty in any way, that will happen 17 times. That person will express that 17 times more, or another way of saying it, that person is 17 times more likely to express that than someone who had a positive experience. So, you know, that means that obviously when you get them, you should really, truly be appreciative. And I am. I'm appreciative. All right, guys. Early morning in Australia from down under. Good morning to you. Good morning, Sweden. I see Sweden's in the house here. All right. Awesome. Good to see you. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's kick it off with some questions, guys. Do you think that Wall Street bros understand Bitcoin's soft or hard forks? I think the understanding is growing on Wall Street, and we have Uncle Larry Fink of BlackRock to sort of thank for that in a way. But make no mistake about it, people. I have been part of the Wall Street scene since 1986. I have actually, most of your Wall Street firms have been my clients. I have taught thousands of Wall Street traders, especially in the 1990s, which is when that was largely my focus. My life's focus was to train professional traders to do what I did. I left Wall Street to actually be a trainer of traders on Wall Street. Anyway, to make a long story short, what I'm trying to really say is that I understand the mindset there. It is the only place I've actually spent my adult career in life. I understand the type of people that actually populate what's commonly referred to as Wall Street. And I want you to understand that as much fun as I poke at them, I want you to understand these are extraordinarily bright people. We're not talking about the lower rung of society here. We're talking about extraordinarily bright people that when they get something, it is like a freaking pit bull. When they get it, and they get it thoroughly, and they get it completely. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be bozos, because they're bozos all the time. I mean, that's a part of the human experience. Occasionally, we're going to be bozos, and the Wall Streeters, or, the pros on Wall Street, are not immune to that, of course, by no stretch of the imagination. But let me just tell you this. I'm going to tell you what I absolutely know. I know that any firm that is worth their salt on Wall Street, they now have a dedicated team. Maybe that team is 5 people, 10 people, maybe it's as many as 20 people. Whatever the number, they have a dedicated team whose sole responsibility is to go as deep down the Bitcoin rabbit hole as possible, to uncover every single little tiny kernel, to peel back the layers until there are no more layers. I am telling you that every single one has a 24-hour operation now. And guess what? They're going to get it better than you. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. They're going to be orange pilled harder than you. They're going to get it better than you. They're going to be smarter Bitcoiners than you, but on the personal side. So let me clarify what I mean on the personal side. You see, guys, professionally, it's almost at this particular stage and for the foreseeable future, it's almost impossible for firms to really totally be almost 100% Bitcoin oriented, even though that's what's going to save their future. But it's almost impossible to, because these guys operate based on charters. So an institution has to operate within the confines of that institution's charter. And let me give an example of an institutional charter's mandate. One institutional fund might have as a mandate in their charter, this fund is to have no more than 15% of its entire valuation exposed to cash and cash equivalents. 15%, that's tops. Anything less is fine, not a single percentage more than 15%. Now, think about this. It doesn't matter whether or not the operators, the pros that operate that fund, that operate that institutional pool of capital, it doesn't matter if they think and know market's going to crash, going to tank. If this was my money, I'd be 80% in cash right now because of what's happening, but they can't. It's not for them to do what they believe is the correct thing to do. The institutional funds charter says no more than 15% cash. So they have to be 85% diversified across the markets, even when they feel and believe personally that is the wrong move. That's the wrong mix up. That's the wrong breakup at this particular time, or that's the wrong diversified allocation at this particular time. It doesn't matter. And so, we have quite a ways before, in the Bitcoin space, before institutions have as a part of their charter fringe asset allocation like Bitcoin, a fringe part of the, okay, we can put up to 3% in something fringe like Bitcoin. Now, where Larry, I believe, came in and did the institutional space in honor and was a big benefit to, is that his involvement is taking it out of this fringe category and perhaps putting it in the same category as something like gold or precious metals right now, and making that an almost absolute necessity based on where we are with things. And so I think it's important to understand that as these people on Wall Street become more acquainted with Bitcoin, it is going to affect their lives far more personally than it will with whatever they're able to really do with the massive amounts of capital right now that they're responsible for. And some people might say, well, Oliver, why would a firm lock itself? Why wouldn't a fund lock itself into something like a 15% cash position, no matter what's going on in the market? Why be so rigid? Because remember, investors, guys, for the most part, people who invest, family offices, wealthy individuals, corporations, governments, agencies that put money to work, pension funds or what have you, they're putting money to work to they're putting money to work in ways that they can't do. So for instance, a person that says, listen, I've got $2 billion I'm going to put into this fund, but I don't want a big cash position. I can do the cash position myself. I don't want to pay you to have a cash position. That's ridiculous. I will take care of my own cash position. Let me worry about the cash position. You worry about deploying this in a non-cash way. I'm not interested in giving you money to put it in cash. I'm not interested in giving you money to buy T-bills. I'm not interested in giving you money and paying a management fee for you to stick it into a money market fund. I can buy T-bills. I can put the money in a money market fund. You go out there and make me gains in ways I can't do. And so that's how they attract large amounts of capital. By marketing, I can do something that you can't do. Everybody can do cash. You understand? And so a lot of these charters have them sort of in straitjackets. You can only have you can only have this percentage of the fund in one industry. You can only have this percentage of the fund in something safe like precious metals, or they're restricted by certain mandates that are built into the charter. Now, this charter is designed to attract a certain type of pool of money. All right. And so that's how basically it works, you know? Now, do they so the question was, do they understand things like soft forks and hard forks? And of course, and increasingly more so. My point was, guys, they're studying this and learning about it and doing the deep dive 24 hours a day. This has been the case this year. They're studying nonstop. They're doing the deep dive on this nonstop. Do not underestimate this group in terms of getting to know more than you do. They've got more resources. They're going to know more about Bitcoin than you do. They're going to know the ins and outs more. They're going to know the technical aspects of Bitcoin more than you. They're going to know the ins and outs and the ramifications of a soft fork versus a hard fork. Of course, you don't allow tens of billions of dollars to flow in something and not thoroughly understand it. You don't do that. So yes, they're going to understand if they don't already. Okay. And Oliver, are you worried about institutional influencing miners and core developers? Listen, I think there are a lot of things that we can legitimately put into a category that I think worry is too strong of a word, but things that you want to pay attention to. And so I think we have to be careful about saying, I worry about this and I worry about that. A lot of that comes from this egoistic point of view that you know what's right for Bitcoin and what's not right for Bitcoin. And we do have to we have to do our best to sort of remain humble and understand that Bitcoin is so early, we have no possible way of knowing the ways that Bitcoin is going to be used, the value proposition it's going to create for human mankind going forward. We don't know. Some people say, well, okay, Oliver, but we do know it's sound money, but that's the first. Sound money is Bitcoin's first app. Think about this. The first app for Bitcoin is sound money. You think it's going to stop there? Like, that's like saying the internet's first app was mail. And that was it. We're going to stop there. The first app for the internet was email. We're going to stop there. That's it. It's over. Are you kidding me? We're in the email stage. The first app for Bitcoin is money, sound money. There is an entire world that will be built from Bitcoin that we can't possibly fathom. The same way that back in 1994, no one would have ever been able to imagine what we use the internet for today in our daily lives. It has literally invaded every single crack, every single kernel, every single spot, every single corner of every single human being's life on planet Earth. It was impossible to know what the use cases were going to be in the future. All we could do is understand really the use case at the moment. And the use case in 1994, and I equate us being back in 1994, and I'll tell you why in just a moment, equivalent in Bitcoin. So we're in Bitcoin terms where the internet was in 1994. But in 1994, the internet's first app was just mail for the most part, and slightly before that. And so we have to remain, my point was that we have to remain humble and not sort of take this stance that we know what this is supposed to be. So I'm worried that these people are going to change this and that. I don't take it that far because I think that comes from ego. But yes, I do believe that what should be watched is how centralized miners act, how institutions attempt to wield their influence. But as you get to understand Bitcoin more and more, you become a little bit less concerned about these things, especially as you've seen Bitcoin sort of work these things out over time, almost all by itself. There is a fundamental misunderstanding about Bitcoin because it is so different. It is not the proof of stake system, which has been the only system that we've been familiar with. We've been familiar with a proof of stake system that is predicated on he who has the biggest stake has the biggest amount of control and power. That is a proof of stake system. But Bitcoin is not a proof of stake system. It is a proof of work system, which has nothing to do with the size of your bags. So, for instance, you and I have just as much say, just as much power, just as much influence as a Michael Saylor has, as a BlackRock has. The size of your bag means absolutely nothing. Zero in terms of influence, in terms of power. If someone managed to get 20 million Bitcoin out of the 21 million, we know that's impossible, but I'm being a little bit facetious, but it drives the point home. If someone were able to accumulate 21 million of the 21, they would have absolutely no more control or influence over Bitcoin than you and me. And I think that's extraordinarily fair. All right. It is not like anything that we have been forced to deal with in the past. It has nothing to do with your stake, has nothing to do with how much money you've poured into the network. It has nothing to do with that. 1984 desktop publishing was the killer app. Desktop publishing personal computers. Absolutely. 1994 email was the killer app. Yeah, but email was based on the internet. The desktop publishing was based on just the personal computer movement. Guys, you realize that I have lived through, I think one of the advantages that I have in perhaps seeing what might be, could be, likely will be with Bitcoin is because I've actually lived through multiple movements. I've lived through a very unique period of time. I lived through the personal computer revolution. I lived through that period where people doubted it and thought it was just something for kids to play games on. That it was going to be the hula hoop of the 1960s, the 1950s. They literally thought that the personal computer was a toy, that it had no lasting power. I lived through all of this, that it was simply something for games. And I heard FUD with the personal computer that it was going to dumb down the nation's youth, the world's youth, and that time on the personal computer should be limited because it would make your children retarded. That it was nothing more than an overly priced Hasbro toy that had very little staying power. And I lived through all of that. And I saw personal computers take over the freaking world. I watched it with my own eyes. I participated in it. Then I lived through the personal mobile cell phone movement that came after. Do you know that's before the internet? Personal computer first. And then the next movement was the mobile phone movement. And all the FUD that was associated around that, like how practical is it to walk around with a phone in your hand and with a phone on you all the time? How stupid is that? Most of the world couldn't understand what the benefit of having a phone on you was. What was the benefit of that? Walking around with your kitchen phone in your pocket? Well, what are we going to do with that? There's not enough use cases for someone to have a phone. It's not like we're the president of the United States. This is ridiculous. Another toy, another useless contraption that will go the way of the Walkman. This is what was said. And then I remember the FUD during the mobile phone unit where, oh, well, if you hold this thing to your ear too long, you're going to get cancer. And then all of the scientists started issuing reports, cancer reports. The medical industry jumped on it. You're going to get cancer holding the phone so close to your ear because of the radiation and because of this and because of that. Stocks were crashing. A Motorola was through the roof in the early part of the mobile phone craze, and then boom, crash because of you. Everybody's going to get cancer holding a phone. And I lived through all of that. Now there are more mobile phones on planet Earth than toilets. Are you kidding me? There are people that do not have a running toilet, never have had one in their entire lives. They actually relieve themselves in the backyard, and they have 2 mobile phones. I lived through this. And then the internet. The internet. I left my cushy position on Wall Street because of the internet. I left to start my own Wall Street firm because of the internet in 1994. Do you realize, people, that before 1994, it was illegal to use the internet in a commercial capacity? How old are some of you? Does anybody remember that? Oh, I'm not saying you couldn't use the internet. The World Wide Web is what they used to call it, but you couldn't use it in a commercial capacity. That was against the law until 1994. And it was that law is when I started my own firm in September of 1994. I had one of Wall Street's first websites. Go look it up. WSO.com. WSO.com. Do you know what that stands for? Wall Street Online. Number 1, the first one in the world. And I will tell you that I lived through all of the FUD regarding the internet. Oliver, you're making the biggest career, the biggest era of your career. You're banking your future on this internet thing. It's a freaking fad. Wall Street, Oliver, you know, doesn't work that way. We're a personal business relationship. You know, we deal in relationships. We deal in connections. We deal in calling the right people at the right time and getting the deal done. The internet has no place when it comes to serious money on Wall Street. Oliver, you're making a mistake. I lost what I consider to be close friendships because I did not take their advice, and I did it anyway. And built a firm that generated hundreds of millions of dollars. And so I lived through this, the same repetitive thing. It's a fad, it's a toy. The biggest thing that I got regarding the internet is that it was for criminals and it was for porn. Oliver, you as a Wall Street professional shouldn't even be associated with the internet. The internet, the first thing that pops up is porn sites and criminals. Like, why do you want to be associated with that? I did it anyway. It's a fad, whatever. And now we have the internet of money. You see, people, the internet helped us discover a new world. This world always existed. It didn't create the world. The internet helped us discover the world, this new frontier. And let's call this new frontier the same way some people claim they discovered the new frontier called the United States. This is the new frontier, the new land of opportunity. Well, the internet, we use the internet. Some people used ships and things of that nature to so-called discover the United States. Well, we use the internet to discover this new frontier called the digital world. The digital world has always existed, but human beings never had access to it until the internet came along and showed us there is a world that is beyond the physical. In the same way that for tens of thousands of years, we lived without the knowledge as a human race of of an atomic world that was beyond the five physical senses, where you couldn't really touch them, see them, feel them, taste them, but they were real nonetheless. And so someone put a contraption together called the microscope. And through the microscope, voila, oh my God, there's a world that's moving around and living there. It's not that the microscope created the atomic world, but it helped us discover the atomic world. And then from that layer, we went to the subatomic world and realized there's a world underneath the atoms, or inside of the atoms as well. Oh, instead of electrons, neutrons, and protons. And then there's something inside of the electrons, bosons, and things of that nature. We kept discovering. And the internet helps us discover this other world where we could put things there, this digital world. And in fact, once we discovered this world called the digital world that always existed, but we just finally discovered it, it started to suck our lives into it. First, our mail went there. We used to write letters, lick the back of disgusting envelopes with the glue and find the right amount of stamps. I want them in there, 5 cents and 2 cents and 7 cents, and go out and find a mailbox to mail. We used to do that, right? Well, most of you didn't, but I used to do that. And the internet took that away. It sucked our mail into the new world. And the majority of our mail today lives in the new digital world. Our mail is digital. It lives there. It left us. Bye-bye. I'm over here now. And what else did it take? It took our photos. When is the last time you've held an actual photo in your hand, touched it, and looked at it with your physical eyes, handed it to someone? When's the last time you've done it? When's the last time you've looked through a freaking physical photo album? Your photos left you to live in the new world, the new frontier. They live in the digital world. You don't touch them anymore. You don't feel them anymore, but you experience the same amount of joy from them as when they used to be physical, and you can hand them off to people. So it didn't make them any less real. They just moved to a different world. The world that the internet unlocked for us. And then our movies went there. And then our books went there. I have more books living here and living here. I have more books living here digitally than all the books in my mother's library. My mother was an assistant librarian. I read every single book in the library. I can't possibly read every single book available to me here. There's tens of millions of books available to me digitally. I don't touch them. I don't feel them, but I get the same amount of information and knowledge from them. The internet unlocked a world of plenty, of abundance, because whatever goes there becomes more. I have 58,000 photos on this phone. I counted it before this talk. 58,000 on this phone. 58,000. Could I have 58,000 physical photos? No. Photos became more in the digital world. I built a physical movie theater in my house in 1997. You know how many movies I accumulate? 550. Do you know how many movies I have access to on Prime, Netflix today? Dude, it's too many. Millions. Movies became more there. Books became more. Photos became more. Movies became more. Mail became more. There's billions of mail going back and forth per hour. That was never possible in the physical world. So whatever goes there becomes bigger. This is very important to understand when it relates to Bitcoin. Now, listen, what we always thought about this digital world, once we begin to get to know it and realize that our things are being sucked there. Mail, music, movies, books, information, knowledge, education, everything's going there. Relationships, sex, everything is there now. What we always thought was that there could never be scarcity in this new world. You see, we started to understand the importance of this new world, this new digital world. But we always understood that scarcity could only remain in the analog world, that you couldn't have scarcity there. You could have plenty, but not scarcity. And so we attempted to create forms of scarcity in the digital space through laws like copyright laws. We tried to bring the copyright laws to digital assets and trademarks in the digital world. So through the legal system, we tried to say you can't copy that music doesn't belong to you. We tried to create a limit on the abundance in this world through the laws of the analog world, which didn't work. You're talking about laws from the analog world being applied to a brand new world that doesn't recognize analog laws. So none of those laws ever existed, which brought us to the conclusion that scarcity can't exist there until some dude called Satoshi Nakamoto took some things from this person, some things from 40 years ago here, grabbed 250 SHA from the NSA, grabbed this over here, and put this thing together, and he came up with a new microscope. And when he looked at the digital world through this new microscope, holy shit, there's digital scarcity. We never knew this existed. He discovered through the algorithm, through the protocol, that digital scarcity is here in this new world. Now, discoveries can only happen once. You can't rediscover fire. So once you discover it, it's done. You can't rediscover, the number 0. Okay, no. Let's undiscover it and let's discover it again next year. That doesn't work. You understand? Once it's a one and done thing. Digital scarcity was discovered. It's one and done. No one else, no other alternative that comes after is going to be that. It can only happen once. Now, what Bitcoin did was extend the importance of the internet, because the internet helped us discover this new world, and Bitcoin helped us discover the fact that digital scarcity exists in this world. And so now everything can go to that world. We had to retain certain things from going there because scarcity didn't exist there. People could copy it. I can't let my value go there to that world. Okay, my photos can go there. You can copy them all you want to. My movies can go there. You can copy those. My mail can go there. You can copy those. But what's really dear to me, I can't let go there because it's going to be copied. It's going to be taken. It's going to be stolen until Bitcoin. Now, everything that I hold dear, everything that is of value can now live there through Bitcoin, because not a single human being can touch it. Not a single organization, not a single group, not a single nation state, not a single government, not a single big giant tech corporation can steal it, take it, touch it, alter it, stop it, confiscate it, debase it. I am the safest there. What I hold dear to me is the safest there. It is not safe here anymore. It's safer there. And get this, if I put my value there where it's safer, it will be exponentially bigger than if I don't put it there. You see, I already have proof of this, because when I put my photos, when my photos went there, I went from having 2 photo albums to having 58,000 photos. When I started doing email, I mail exponentially more than I used to mail in the analog world. I have more books in that world than I ever could possibly have in the old world. I have more music. I have access to more music there than physically possible in a million lives in the old world. So I already have proof that whatever goes to the digital world goes exponentially bigger. So now I am safe to put value there through Bitcoin and understand that it can't be copied, taken, stolen, confiscated, debased. But I know that because it's there, it's going to grow exponentially bigger than it would if I keep it here. This is my number one message. Get your ass to that digital world. Get your ass up, pack your bags, and stop this nonsense of I gotta keep my things of value here. No, you better get them over there really fast, because that window of opportunity where it really counts is going to disappear from you. There is nothing that has gone there that hasn't become bigger and better. Nothing. We have the living proof that everything there is bigger and better than here in the analog world. Everything. Guys, I have some of the deepest relationships I have are digital. These are people I've never physically met, never shook their hands, never really read the white of their eyeballs. Yet I speak to them every day. I know their children. I talk to their children. I send birthday messages via email. I feel like I'm part of these people's lives. Everything there is bigger, better, and now safer because of Bitcoin. And this is the massive lesson that the worlds will have to understand. It's not that right now it is your choice to understand this. In the future, you will have to, out of necessity. This movement continues. Bitcoin is just the continuation of what the internet started. And the internet is nothing more than the continuation of what the printing press started. Do you understand? It's the same movement. It's just that if you can think of this movement in the form of a line, it's just that every few generations or so, something new pops up on that line that gives us access to greater capabilities along that line. So the printing press during that line gave us extra benefits. And then a few generations later, the internet gave us extra benefits. And now Bitcoin gives us extra benefits, but it's the same freaking movement, just unlocking. It's the same way we felt like the world was physical. And then we realized the next thing that popped up, the world is atomic. And then the next thing that popped up, the world is subatomic. Do you understand? It's like it's just different layers along the same line of understanding. Bitcoin is just the next step in that evolution. It's powerful when you see it this way. The reason we know that Bitcoin is going to be bigger than anything else in the analog world, another reason we know is because nothing in the analog world can be given to every single human being. So you can't, an artist can't be seen by a musical group can't be seen by every single person on planet Earth. They can't come see them. But in the digital world, they can see them. Every single human being can see them. You see? I can't give a bar of gold to every single human being on Earth. I can't. It's not, you can't have it. Every single human being can't have gold. But every single human being can have Bitcoin. That's how you know it's going to be bigger than everything. Every single human being can't have Apple stock. Actually, only a very small percentage of the human race can have Apple stock. And Apple is the most valuable asset on earth outside of gold right now. And only a small percentage of the human race can have it. Yet everyone in the world can have Bitcoin without permission. That's not going to be bigger than Apple? Are you kidding me? Small percentage versus everybody? A movie is considered a success by how many people viewed it, right? The more people who view the movie, the more successful the movie. Am I right? Yes. So the more people that can have it, the more successful the item, no? I mean, isn't that freaking common sense? Not every human being can have gold, but every human being can have Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be bigger than gold. Not every human being can have Apple. Every human being can have Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be bigger than Apple. Not every human being can have Microsoft, but every human being can have Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be bigger than Microsoft. Bitcoin's going to be bigger than gold, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia. Not every single human being can have bonds. Bitcoin's going to be bigger than bonds. Not every single human being can have a house, property, real estate. Bitcoin's going to be bigger than real estate because every single human being can have it in the digital world. This should be really common sense to people, but it never is because it wasn't common sense when the personal computer came in. I lived through that. It wasn't common sense when the mobile phone became the movement. I lived through that. It wasn't common sense when the internet came into existence. I lived through that. And it's still not common sense now that Bitcoin's here and I'm living through this. One of my benefits is that I had all of those others to live through in my lifetime. It's like watching the same freaking movie over and over again with the same actors, with the same lines, criminals and porn and this. They have the same lines. It's incredible to me. They're new actors, but repeating the same lines as before in the last movement. The same FUD, the same doubts, the same concerns, the same disbelief every single time. And again, because I've lived through multiple in my lifetime, it's like this one's easy. This one's the easiest one of all for me because I've seen the shit. I've seen the movie. It's like I've seen the movie 4 times, dude. I know what they're going to say. I know what's going to happen. I know what the next scene is. I know how this ends. This ends with 65% of the world having access and having Bitcoin. That's where it ends. 60 to 80%. And we're at half of 1%. So if we're going to 60 to 80% like the internet did, right? So if we're following the internet, and that we always follow the last one, but just bigger. If we're going to 60, 80% adoption, and we're at half of 1% adoption now, why the fuck should you be selling? What? Uh, Oliver, we're at half of 1%. I think I should take some profits. What planet are you from? Seriously? You're at half of 1% adoption. We're going to 60 to 80%. You have the blueprint. The internet has given you the blueprint in your lifetime. The internet of information and knowledge has shown you the path, has shown you the movie. Now you get to see the movie again with the internet of money. You know it's going to 60 to 80%. You know it's going to be bigger than everything else because everything in the digital world is bigger than everything in the analog world. So we know this. This is all established. It's proven by simply going back over history that everything in the digital world is bigger. So we know this. We know we're going to 60 to 80%. We're only at half of 1%, and you want to take profits. Oosa. Oosa. You bozos. Crazy. You guys crack me up sometimes. It's wild. Plenty of pizza mentalities. Wait till it hits 150. Yeah. And you know, guys, look. I see things, I live backwards. It's a life hack that I've just applied from very young. I live backwards. So I have gone to 60 to 80% adoption in Bitcoin. I've gone there. And I've seen that. Now I've come back to tell you bozos, do not let this go. This is going to change the entire trajectory of your entire bloodline. Do not let this go. Do not treat this like something in the analog world. Do not treat this like Apple stock. Do not treat this like Nvidia stock. Do not treat this like a freaking shitcoin. Don't do this. Don't sell the internet in 1994. Don't do this. If you want family members that are not even born yet to have your photo, to have your painting on their living room walls, to say, that's my great uncle, Matthias. We are who we are today because of great uncle Matthias. Back in the old days when you could actually get Bitcoin by changing government paper for it. Can you believe that shit? My great uncle was smart enough to know that that's not going to last. So he got it and he hoarded it. And here we are today. But mark my words. If you let this go, you will never get it back, not in the same amounts. If you don't touch this, your family members not born yet will know. Your action is recorded as well as your inaction. The fact that you don't show up on the blockchain, on the time chain, during this time when you lived, you will be judged for that. Can you imagine that my great aunt lived during this time? I have friends where their relatives got this and mine didn't. Your lack of acting is a recording as well as your action. You will be known as not being the brute of the family who did not take advantage of free land runs when it was available. But now you've got to pay millions upon millions upon millions of dollars for a piece of real estate when there used to be free land runs, when they allowed you to take paper and get something real for it. You're going to be judged one way or the other. I told you I went there to 60 to 80% and came back. I saw people judging there. You're going to be judged. Don't let this go. What else, guys? What else? I always say that I'm not going to preach to you, but never quite works out that way. Never quite works out that way. I'm always preaching to you. All right. Guys, I told you, I don't know if you're asking questions or more. I don't see all of them, and I don't know what that is. But yeah. Matthias says, yes, thanks for the answer. Yes, same with AC electricity and being dangerous when Tesla presented it. Yes, as always. Guys, remember when the personal computer was going to make children, no, remember when the calculator, before the personal computer, don't let you guys don't remember. I remember this. I'm much older than the vast majority of you, right? So there's like, don't let your kids, my mother would take the calculator away from me. That's going to make you dumb, son. You're going to be dumb. Learn to do the math in your head. And I was like, but why when I can do it with this? I don't get it. Yeah, but you have to, you have to memorize your formulas and this. But I said, why do I have to memorize that when I have this? Like, I don't get it, Mom. I used to argue with my mother. Why can't I use the calculator? Well, you got to learn how to do it in your head. But why? No one could ever really give me an answer either. But it was supposed to make you dumb. And then the personal computer was the next thing. It was only like a calculator on steroids that was supposed to make your kids dumb. Remember when television was supposed to make your kids dumb? Now, some people still believe that, but selective television watching can be very educational. It just depends, like any tool, it depends on how you use it and how you allow your children to use it, right? The radio was supposed to be bad. There were movements against electricity. It was supposed to give you cancer. It was movements against the automobile. It was bad. It was bad for the world. The Lord and Savior doesn't want automobiles to exist. It's going to kill the horses. It's always this, always. You know? All right. How important is UTXO management? And is that a real concern in the future if you have a lot of small buys via DCAs? Yes. Yes. This is very, very important. And it's something that I actually work with my Bitcoiners. I told you I always hate that term, but I'm talking about the Bitcoiners that we started this journey together all the way back in March of 2020. And we do this as a group together and so forth and so on, right? But you have to think of UTXOs as little bits of Bitcoin, right? Your Bitcoin is really made of little bits of Bitcoin, which are called UTXOs, or unspent transaction outputs. So think of an unspent transaction output as a bill in your wallet. And so a $100, you could have a $100 bill, and you could also have a collection of bills that the sum of which is $100. So you can have five 20s, and that's 100, or you can have $100 bill. So $100 bill is one UTXO. And then if you have five 20s, you have five UTXOs that make up the same value of $100. So they're little bits of value, let's say. They're little bits of Bitcoin value. Now, you want to make sure that you're not maintaining UTXOs that are too small, because they can become dust, right? So there's a dust factor, which means, what's dust? Your UTXOs become unspendable, unusable, unspendable, if the value is less than the cost to move them or to spend them. So for instance, if you have a UTXO that now is worth 15 cents, and the UTXO, the cost to move that UTXO is $1. Will you spend $1? Will you pay $1 to spend 15 cents? No. So the 15 cents is gone, right? So, there are certain things you can do by consolidating UTXOs when the minor fees are very low. You take the little ones, you combine them with bigger ones, sort of like taking, 5 20s and making a $100 UTXO. Boom. Taking $2 here, this, that, taking all your small ones. And then you want different size of UTXOs. You don't want every one to be 100. So you want some on the smaller side, but safe small. And then you want some bigger, but not too big, because that leaks privacy. So a general guideline is no UTXO should be greater than 1 Bitcoin. I mean, greater than half a Bitcoin. Some people go this general guideline. No UTXO should be greater than half a Bitcoin. And no UTXO should be less than, let's say, 1,000,000 Satoshis now. Those numbers could change. Like that million could be 2 million at one particular point in the future. Who knows? But that's sort of like a general guideline. And the reason why you don't want some UTOs to be massive, because if you ever have to spend from that, the person you're sending Bitcoin to from a massive UTXO will see the change. So let's say you've got a massive UTXO of 2 Bitcoin, but you need to pay someone 1/10 of a Bitcoin. And you're going to use the 2 full Bitcoin UTXO to pay 1/10 of a Bitcoin. Well, that 1/10 goes to the person, and the other massive Bitcoin comes back to you in terms of change. The person you sent that Bitcoin to sees the whole thing. They see the amount they receive, and they can see the amount that goes back to you. It's, wow, that person had 2 Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now $10 million. That person has $20 million. Where does he live? You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to leak privacy that way. All right. There's a lot of talk about Bitcoin not being so private. And, this is all, in my opinion, misconstrued by the shitcoiners that have come up with so-called privacy coins, and they cloud the matter. What is lost in this privacy talk is the fact that you don't want 100% privacy on the base layer of money. That's the shit that we're dealing with now. Like, let me give you an example. You tell me how much gold is in Fort Knox. Tell me. How much gold is backing our country, the United States? How much gold does really the United States have? When's the last audit made available? How can I verify that audit? First of all, there is no audit. Second of all, if there were, you wouldn't be able to verify it, and nobody knows. Now, is that good? No. That's base layer freaking value. You want the total base to be known and seen. It's the layers on top. Do you understand? So, for instance, the money in my pocket, you don't need to, that can be totally private. But the total money that the bank has should not be private. The money in my account can be private, but the amount, the base layer, the bank's total fund should not be private. So the base layer money should not be 100% private, because then you run into all of the other scams that we deal with when we can't peek behind the curtain and see the truth. The fact, if you want truth money, if you want money that every human being can verify where it is, that no one's stealing it, no one's taking it, no one's pulling the wool over my eyes, you can't make it hidden. It has to be fucking open. That's fucking common sense. Otherwise, we're back to people being able to hide the salami. You understand? I don't want anybody hiding the salami anymore. Now that's one thing. The other thing is, so all privacy has to be on the other layers, the layers on top of base layer money. And as these layers continue to be built and perfected, trust me, you're going to have money that is so private, nobody's going to know anything. This is coming. It's actually in existence now and being developed more and more. So privacy comes later, guys. But you don't want that on the base layer. With all of that being said, what the shitcoiners do is they overestimate the privacy of their bullshit, and they underestimate. They paint the picture as if Bitcoin has no privacy. What I said was 100% privacy. Bitcoin is still privacy money to a certain point on the base layer. Let me give you an example of this. I'll give you an example. If you took someone as a favor, if you took someone's as a favor to the airport because they couldn't get an Uber, it was taking too long, and if they waited for the Uber to come, they're going to miss this important flight. They ask you to take them, they're willing to pay you the same amount of the Uber, and you say, yeah, but you know what? You got to pay me Bitcoin. The person says, all right, okay, cool. I have no problem with that. All right, let's check what the rate is on Uber. All right, boom, just zap me. Boom. Okay, let's go. I'm going to ask you, is that private? All right, it's $81 to the airport. You got $81 in Satoshis over Lightning Network or whatever. Is it private? Hell yes, it's private. I'll give you even another example of how private Bitcoin is. Not 100% private, but it still has a lot of privacy. You buy Bitcoin off of an exchange, Kraken, and you send the Bitcoin out of Kraken, which you should, and you send it to another address to get off the exchange. Now, is that private? Yes. Okay. I know some people are going to have issue with me and say, no, Oliver, that's not private because of KYC. Da, 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 da. Yeah, but no one knows whom you sent the Bitcoin to. Did you send it to your daughter? Did you send it to a friend in need? Did you send it to purchase something? Did you send it to pay for something? Did you send it as a loan to like nobody knows that. And what if it just sits there? What if it's just hodled? There is still an element of privacy to it. You know, now I know we can take this example. Every example, if you press it hard enough, it can break down, right? So we can press this example hard enough. Well, you're put in jail until you reveal who the owner of that wallet is, and if it's yours, and you have to reveal, otherwise you're going to go to jail. All right, yeah, maybe, yeah, okay, we can press it that far. But 380 million people, that's not going to happen with. 8 billion people, that's not going to freaking happen with. Small number maybe, but you can't do that with 8 billion people. You understand? So it's not that Bitcoin has zero privacy, but the base layer is not supposed to be 100% private. Otherwise, we're back to, somebody can fucking hide the salami on me. I don't want that shit anymore. I want every single freaking Satoshi accounted for. That's how I know the value of my Satoshis are still secure and no one's pulling the wool over my eyes, hiding the salami over here, printing new Satoshis over here, debasing me, and I don't know. So that's that if Bitcoin was totally private, that's what shit can happen. But because it's every person in the world for free can account for every single Satoshi in existence, that makes it freedom money. That makes it fair money. The first fair money human beings have ever come in contact with. And that is more important to me than the other issues. All right. Seems like there will be another bank run collapse before the central bank lowers interest rates. No, well, I think interest rates being lowered are pretty. Whoa, guys, God, do you see that? Holy shit, do you see? Is Bitcoin running on us here? The fuck? Don't go so quickly, my man. Whoa, we hit almost 65. That's crazy. Every time I talk, guys, every time I talk, Bitcoin says, oh, OV's talking? Let me get on my skates. All right. So bank runs. First of all, I think that a 25% basis point lowering in the interest rate is pretty much a given. I think it's actually inching toward a 0.5%. Who cares? None of that's going to stop Bitcoin from pumping as we approach October. Listen, mark my words. Nothing. There is nothing. I get flack for this all the time. There's nothing you can pull, nothing you can come out with, nothing that can happen in the world that will stop it. I'm telling you, you're going to see nothing. I don't care if interest rates go up, nothing's going to stop. Go down, nothing's going to stop. Stay flat, nothing's going to stop. Bank run, nothing's going to stop. Nothing. It's maths. 1 + 1 still equals 2. Sorry. Oh, wait, but Oliver, you know, if they do this, 1 + 1 is going to equal 5. Nope, it's going to equal 2. Yeah, but what if the central bank does this? It's going to, 1 + 1 is not going to equal 2, Oliver. I refuse to believe it. Sorry, it's going to still equal 2. Mathematical protocol. I frustrate people. They say, but Oliver, what about this, Oliver? What about this, Oliver? In this scenario, Oliver, why do all of the doubters, they sound like the same way? But Oliver, can you hear them? Don't they sound the same? But Oliver, but. Dude, 1 + 1 equals 2. I've been showing you the same thing every single cycle. What do you want from me? None of that matters. It's all smoke screens stuff. None of it matters. Now, to get directly to the question here, seems like there will be another bank run. Dude, there's bank runs every single week. Do you want the site to check it? I don't think there's a freaking month or week that goes by if there's no bank run or bank collapse. They're happening all the time. They're not reported. It's so regular now that it's not even freaking news. There's a site from the Federal Reserve that reports on how many banks they closed this week, how many banks they closed last week. They're happening every day, dude. It's normalized. It's crazy, right? Oh my God. That is very true, Mansur. I'm kind of using it in a different context. I'm using it in the PG context, you know, but you know. This is crazy though, no? Let me do something here a little bit, guys. Let me show you something here. I'm going to show you something. Let me show you math. I hope you don't mind, guys. Can I do this? Can I show you maths at work? Can I do this? It's okay, right? I just want to show you math that nothing matters. I'm going to show you this, right? Okay, let me show you. I'll show it to you. Give me a second here. Let's go to, okay, this. Let's go to, okay. Now, I want you to understand that this is when Bitcoin is seeking price discovery. So we have to take this one out, right? So starting from here, I want you to say, look, 1, 2, 3, red. 1, 2, 3, green, red. 1, should we do it differently? Should we do it differently here? Let's circle them. Let's do all of them differently. 1, 2, 3. Then a red one. 1, 2, 3. Then a red one. 1, 2, 3. Then a red one. 1, 2. This was not done yet. And what's next? Fucking 3. Like, dude, people say, Oliver, I don't understand Bitcoins. Oliver, I don't understand Bitcoins. I'm like, you think I can understand Bitcoins, Oliver? You think Oliver, do you think I can understand Bitcoins? I don't understand Bitcoins. Can I understand Bitcoins, Oliver? I said, well, can you count to 3? Yes, Oliver, I can count to 3. Well, then you can understand Bitcoins then. 3 years up, 1 year down. 3 years up, 1 year down. 3 years up, 1 year down. Well, what do I do during the year down, Oliver? Do I sell? No, you buy. You don't buy, you buy down. So that when the 3 years come later, your family wants to idolize you. But Oliver, I want to sidestep the down. Well, you don't want to become wealthy then, do you? When Warren Buffett says he's a value investor, does he mean that he buys on the green or he buys on the red? What is a value investor? I buy down, right? And you bozos want to skip the down? I want to skip what makes me wealthy. I want to sidestep the value, Oliver. I don't want to be a value player. I want to overpay. I don't want to underpay. I don't want value, Oliver. I want to sidestep the value. Look, guys, the red years are our gifts because what follows the gift is 3 straight years up. And if you wait for the years up, you're chasing in the wrong direction. You gotta use the year down to get your bags. Please tell me you understand this. I'm not going to go anywhere until you tell me you understand this. What I just said. Your wealth is made on the red bars. It's not made on the green bars. It's made by what you do on the red, because what follows the red is 3 straight years up every single time. I didn't make this chart up, guys. So if you wait for the green, you're chasing in the wrong direction. Do you follow? You got to do your best work during the red year because your life is changed during the 3 green. But not if you have sidestepped the gift, not if you have not participated in the red. Tell me you understand this. I know we're sort of operating on a delay, but can someone respond? Do you understand? Do you understand? I'm getting no comment, so maybe it's because you guys can't comment, I guess. I don't know. Entender. Okay. I got one. Awesome. Okay. Entender. Yes. Okay. All right. Good. Good. I'm getting them. I'm getting them now. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. But Oliver, Oliver, but Oliver, when do I take profits, Oliver? When do I take profits on this? Take profits into what? Like, what do you take profits to when you have the number one? Oliver, I want to take profits to number 27. Can I please? No. I have number one, but I want to sell it for number 50. What? I want to sell the most valuable thing, the scarcest thing on earth, and I want to sell it. I want to go back to government paper printed money that's false and fake and that is making me poorer by the hour. I want to go back to that. Oliver, tell me when I can go back to that, please. Seriously. Oliver, I know I got out of jail and I'm now free, but when do I go back to jail, Oliver? Tell me. When do I come back? When do I go back into my cell, Oliver? What? Dude, in 2 years, every single financial organization on planet Earth is going to roll out the fucking red carpet. And at the end of the carpet, they're going to be standing there in a tuxedo with Dom Perignon already poured for you with a cherry in it, with a cherry, a big, fat, ripe cherry, welcoming you because you're a Bitcoiner. And they're going to open up the books and they're going to say, sir, is there anything we can do for you? Anything your heart desires. You have Bitcoin, right? Well, come this way. We will open up the books to you. Do you understand how valuable you are going to be to the world as a Bitcoiner, to every financial organization? Countries will be vying for you to live there. Do you understand? To bring your wealth there, to bring who you are there. Financial organizations will do everything in their power to have you be with them. Do you see? I told you I went to 60 to 80% adoption and came back. Do you understand the position that you have right now? No, you don't, because you're asking me about getting rid of it. This is in a few short years. You will be able to get anything on planet Earth without ever selling your Bitcoin. Ever, ever. And some people say, well, Oliver, how is that going to happen? That's not going to happen. How's that going to happen? I'm like, you freaking bozo. It's been happening for hundreds of years. Isn't that what the freaking real estate moguls do? They don't sell, they borrow. They refinance and refinance and refinance. And their family generations, 7 generations down, 8 generations down, living off of one land purchase that's priceless today. And they just keep fucking refinancing it and never selling it. And you got thousands of people living life bigger than you can imagine because no one sold that property. That's going to be Bitcoin. The most pristine asset on the globe, and you want to give it away. You want to sell it for government money? Really? Just listen, let me just put it to you this way, and then I'm going to go. If any of you bozos have Bitcoin in any sufficient amounts, and you want government paper for it, DM me. Not only will I take it from you and give you your government money, I'll give you a premium on it. So I'll give you more than what you can get by selling it on Coinbase or Kraken or whatever. DM me. And if you think I'm playing, try me. All right, guys. Ciao for now. Get out of here. I gotta go grab something to eat. But love you to death. Go to work. Bitcoin is pumping like a mofo. Whoo! This is crazy. I did want to get a little bit. I do like to look at this on the 15-minute actually. Look at that thing. Holy. Just look at the freaking beauty of that thing. It's like a freaking Picasso. No, better than a Picasso. It's like a Monet. Just stare at it. Stare at it. Ciao.